No. Okay, hello and welcome. My name is Anna, CEO and founder of UNA Technology. UNA Technology is a B2B software solution. We are helping big fashion companies to shorten their design process to only some simple clicks by using our artificial intelligence software. Today I will speak with Martin and with Jack, and I would like that you present yourself. Martin, maybe you go first.
Yeah, hey, I'm Martin. I'm working in the sporting goods industry since 13 years now in several positions on the retail side, on the merchandising side, and the last 10 years on the product creation side, focus on apparel. And I hope I can bring some insights how product creation works right now and how technology can help.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jack. I have 10 years of experience working in the sporting goods industry, having done a few different roles, predominantly in product creation. I used to do quite a bit of customization for elite athletes, and recently I was working within the innovation function at PUMA, creating products in both footwear and apparel, but on a research and insight perspective, which meant trying to come up with new ideas to feed designers and developers, but then also when we had products, to really connect with consumers and find out, do these products actually come across as innovative, new, unique, and interesting? Ironically, I did work with Martin quite a bit. So I was in the very back end and Martin was in the very front end. So my job was ultimately to try and help convince Martin that we were coming up with really good ideas and that he should take them and put them into the, let's say, on the shelves.
Well, that's actually the question: who should be on the front end and who's on the back end? Normally, actually, the innovation team should be on the front end, and then connect with the product teams to kind of bring the new innovation that big brands want to enter the market with.
Awesome. So finally, the innovation team's on the front end. I love it. Thank you, Martin. Thank you.
And guys, actually, fun fact: I know Martin already 22 years. We started together sports to be teachers for secondary. How's it called in English? Secondary schools.
Yeah, we studied to be teachers at secondary school level, and so we had some fun classes together. Yeah.
Yes.
And neither of us ended up being a teacher.
No, neither. No. Yeah, but I love my job. You also do, right? So I have the first question for you. I mean, this is what I suppose the question you always get this time during the pandemic. How was the sportswear market? What did COVID to the sportswear market? Do you see any changes?
Well, I mean, COVID didn't just change the sportswear market. It had an impact on everything, how people have to organize their lives and how to work remotely. And but as well with being limited on how many contacts people can have, individual sports had a huge push, and people want to stay active, and the whole active world kind of had a positive impact. It took some time to notice that, because everyone was a little cautious in April, May, June, and all those brands were not really sure what's going to happen. But then, especially over the summer, people actually bought more active apparel. What is also important, that brands focus way more on digital tools and how they can get closer to the consumer with direct to consumer interaction, whether it's on their retail homepages, whether it's with their marketing campaigns, whether it's the way how they operate every day. And certainly whenever something happens across the world, and this is not just a COVID thing, but I think the sustainable aspect in not just our industry becomes more and more important. And I think COVID has kind of accelerated a lot of these points, that brands try to become more digital faster. Brands want to reach out to the consumer in different ways. And this is what I think last year has changed a lot in the industry.
So what you say is that the fashion industry is trying since 5 years to change into digital industry, and you think that is now it was now the way into the digitization of the fashion industry?
Well, it's the way how you create products, and again, I mean, in my world, and I mean, I'm based in the US, and I think we more or less work remotely since a year. And when you work remotely, you need to look into different scenarios, how you communicate, and also how you do your research, because you actually cannot travel into the markets right now to see what's going on in Asia or in Europe, and especially when you work in global roles, you know. And it comes down to research at home on your computer. And it's also, and Jack, you can add more from a research perspective, but it's also how you organize yourself, how you structure your day. And so there, digital tools help to, and here I'm just talking about calls like we have right now, you know, that you can join meetings wherever you are and wherever you want to join. And so this is where digital tools help just to organize your daily life.
And now coming back to the apparel market and apparel industry, what do you think, Jack, about research? How did that change?
Well, since people are at home and mostly on computers, if you were able to do a lot of digital research, so running surveys, setting up, what I found very interesting as a proposition now for brands is to set up these digital communities. So you could certainly recruit people. We were doing this quite a bit as well within small groups. So we were having digital conferences, and we found this actually as impactful, if not more impactful, than having regular meetings with athletes or people who are wear testing products. So you could really speed up a lot of the research process just by utilizing the fact that people were at home and on their computers or on their phones all the time. I had, I'll give you another anecdotal experience. During this time period, I had a lot of target consumers just take videos of what they were doing all day and then sending it to me. And I said, show me where you go and run, what you're wearing, show me your wardrobe. Like, just show me like all the stuff you have, like all where your shoes are and where your go-to product is. I just want to see it. And they just literally like sent me videos all the time. And that was the amount of research you could do with literally just asking a few questions using these digital tools really accelerated the process.
Yeah, interesting. What do you think, are there new innovations now in the apparel and in the sportswear industry? What is deployed right now?
Well, I think it depends. If I think of the sport industry at large, I mean, there's something Martin mentioned. Since people are at home, I mean, I just think of Peloton. Peloton as an example. You have apps, digital apps right now, or like if people haven't downloaded an app to do sports yet during this time period, a lot of people would have or should have. And so I think if you're, I'm thinking back to the brand perspective, now you've got a lot of people using your services to do training programs because they can't go to gyms. Or they can't interact with a lot of people. So you have a lot of people who are there literally at your fingertips. The question is, can you convert these people to not only a cool training experience, but can you sell something to them on top? And that's been, I would say, as Martin was mentioning, the acceleration of, let's say, the fashion industry, if you will. How can I actually provide a product on top? So people are racing to utilize these platforms to also be commercial.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. That reminds me actually. The first software I was developing was transforming tracking data of training apps into fashion design. I did a fashion show. Martin was also there. So.
Whoa.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. And you spoke already about that in the beginning. So, what is actually the process of the product in the apparel in the sportswear industry? Do you start with the innovation lab, or how is the process? How is it working?
Well, that's the chicken and the egg question. I think it's a bit of both. It's case by case. Martin can easily Well, there's a couple ways. I mean, I think, I mean, I can be pretty candid here on a process perspective, where you kind of look at it as an innovation function. You'll look at, where you're having your streams of impact. One could be literally just having a genuine idea. Someone who's been in the industry for 10 years or longer and just says, I've seen products come through here. I know it's already hit the marketplace and this has definitely been missing. So then you just start with an idea. You can also start from manufacturing techniques, where there's this new knit process. I mean, before knit hit the market, there was just all kinds of new ways to knit products, and just a new way to create new materials, or a quicker way to manufacture new sporting goods. So you basically jump on that train and try and create prototypes as fast as you can. The other way is where my mandate was trying to listen, be present, and understand what people are asking for or missing out on, and then you create this, let's say, this frenzy of briefs from all these angles, and then at some point you create prototypes, and hopefully some of them stick. And actually throughout that process, you have, our colleagues such as Martin in this case he calls himself the back end. I'm calling him the front end because he's closest to the actual consumers buying the products. They will come in and also say, hey, we're missing this. Can we have this in 6 weeks? Or 6 weeks is probably a little. Can we have this product in 6 months? So we have a clear brief from them. So there's always a bit of a balancing act between all these different interfaces.
Yeah. So one thing I think, and this is where all innovation teams I think have to define what their exact role is, whether they should find the new thing that no one has but everyone needs, kind of answering a need that actually is not there yet. So before there was a car, there were horses, and people probably would have asked for faster horses, but they came up with a car, and so now everyone needs a car. Same like with iPhone. So you had a phone, and suddenly someone brought a computer that you can carry with you all the time. So what is that next new thing? And you can't really brief that. As a product manager, you cannot say, hey, give me the next new thing that no one knows about, but everyone needs in 10 years from now. At the same time, it's kind of what is existing right now, and how can we improve that? How can we get better? How can we get more efficient? How can we have better sustainable? You have certain garments or certain apparel, and you say, I want to have that in sustainable executions. And this is where it's two ways. One is this really creative thing. And so probably that should be 30% of the work of an innovation team. But there's 70% where you take existing things, existing product, to just make it better, to make it better for the athlete, to make it better for the environment, to make it better for the consumer, and so this is where, when we were talking about the chicken and the egg, so who's on the forefront and who's on the back end. So as a product manager, you don't know what the next thing is, and you expect the innovation team to be on the forefront, to kind of tell the innovation team what the consumer is asking for right now. You brief them, and then certainly you on the forefront, and you tell the innovation team on the back end what they need to work on. Yes, so it's an in-between.
Yeah, interesting. There's coming question to my mind. How long does one collection or one process take? How many hours, or how many weeks, or what is like the circle? Do you remember? Do you remember something?
Well, different. There's it can go fast. It can go years. Fast is where I was mentioning earlier. Martin says clearly we need this by X time. Or what tends to happen in, for example, calendars such as the one Martin was working in, where we have big events. So we tend to innovate around big events. So World Cups, Olympics. There's certain launch events where you have a pretty clear timeline. So you have 4 years to, for example, Olympics, we have 4 years to create and innovate in between idea or briefing to the actual product. Whereas when it comes to products that come off the shelf, like everyday running wear, that can be done in a much shorter period of time. And I don't want to. I could probably elaborate on the timelines, but those can be anywhere between 16 months to 12 months to even 8 months.
Interesting. It's very long time, right?
Yeah, I think also here you have to differentiate. If you ask for the next new thing, probably you need to be 3 years ahead of the time, and you don't actually know if you find something in the next 3 years. So then there are fixed dates, like Jack mentioned, and then there's something, you have your seasonal product lines, you kind of know there is a new running collection for every 6 months, and so there you have different timelines to get there, and usually brands use kind of 18 months to create products from the initial idea until it's in the market. But you have to consider that it only takes 6 months to produce it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably have 12 months from the initial idea until it should be ready, that it can be produced and an order can be placed. What you try to do in certain areas, you get closer to market, you see something happening, you see a print pattern that's coming up that has never been there before, and you want to react, and you work on processes to shorten timelines, and to probably reduce the timeline from initial idea until it's in the market to 12 months, to 9 months, in ideal cases to 4 months. But that there are a lot of requirements also from the sourcing side, from fabric availability and these kind of things. What we know that the time for designing kind of in those 18 months, let's take 18 months timelines. So maybe it takes up to 2 months to design something, and then present it to internal people, and then you get feedback. Well, that's working in our market, that's not working in our market. And certainly some of these decisions are made on sales data from the past, but this is where people look into their Excel documents. Some of them are driven by experience and kind of say, well, I never liked red, so this is, I think this red is not commercial in my market. That happens as well. So there's not always just very kind of objective ways to find out whether something could work or not, you know. And so one thing is, how could maybe the design process be shortened? That's one thing where you could look into shorter timelines. The other question is, how much time do you need to produce samples? You know, it's certain, even if you produce a sample, you need to get fabric, you have to have sample lines available at suppliers that people can put the sample together. It needs to be shipped from one place in the world to another, and so then the sample thing is one thing you could look into to shorten timelines, and this is what you try to do when you work on shorter to go closer to market timelines. And so there are certain things where also technology could help, and sometimes that's not always used yet, you know.
Yes, and what technology do you use to shorten processes right now? Are there already, beside of Photoshop and I don't know.
Well, that's a tough one. I mean, and certainly we do use services like Edited or WGSN, who actually run researches for you.
Maybe you explain for people who are listening to us, they don't know what it is.
So those are platforms that, and to be honest, I don't know how they do it, how they do it on their end, but they have reports of what colors are trending in the next season, of what print patterns are coming up, what silhouettes are trending, and I don't really know how they run the researches. Jack, I don't know if you have more info on that, but so this is certainly what you use, and then the designer or the product manager is actually doing online researches where they snip pictures from homepages and kind of they read fashion magazines, they read running magazines if they work on running product. You know, this is how you get your input. Right now, I am not aware, at least in the jobs I have been, that we have used tools to get artificial intelligence data that can prove that you're on the right path or on the wrong path, or actually give you the initial idea.
No, that is interesting. And in the newer part, Jack, do you know any tools?
Yeah, I mean, there are some market research tools I think you can utilize to quickly define. And again, this is back to the question is a product that you're creating, you're trying to validate it against something. And one is going to be the aesthetic appeal, or as I like to think of, if you're in apparel specifically, if you're creating an innovative technology, it has to be visible. I think if you can't see it, then most people don't really want it or could care about it. So you have to be able to see it. So everything we innovated to in an apparel function was always going to be visible. So what I tend to do was literally like, I would just put a product in front of someone and not ask them a question, go, what do you think this does? Because they need to be able to see it on the shelf, or not a lot of explanation. So what we tend to find is that most people probably didn't notice that, or weren't aware of it, or couldn't see it, which means we had to be able to, which meant it's not intuitive. So I could check, if you could check for that really quickly, that's hhugely impactful early on during this prototyping phase, to say like, bad idea, go back and do it again. The other thing we'd ask quite often is, if it's a technical performance product, does it look fast? Does it look like highly engineered? Does it look like things that you expect an expensive garment should look like from an aesthetic perspective? Because the target consumers will pick that up. So these are the things that you can easily and quickly check before you have physical prototypes to say, these do or don't work. And those technologies don't really exist in the marketplace as I've seen them. And so I'll actually boost your technology here, because I haven't actually seen it in person, or haven't used it. But I think if you can quickly prototype or visually create a prototype that you can get in front of 15 to 20 people pretty quick, you can get a very fast answer. Are you actually hitting the need that you're trying to deliver to a consumer?
I think here also we have to differentiate between different types of products. There is kind of fashion product, like a graphic T-shirt, printed T-shirt, or printed hoodie, where it's easy to, or you don't need to see a sample all the time. You can use a 3D execution to make a decision whether or not you want to go with the print or the hoodie or not. In certain areas, and talking about the performance product, where the performance is important, a sample is needed. The question is, how quick can you get to a physical sample? And also there is area to improve and to get faster to a point to reach out to the supplier and say, hey, I need a sample to see what the weight is, what the hand feel is, if it works during exercise. This is what I hope, working in that industry and being passionate about product and love touching a product as well, and love testing a product, because this feedback is definitely important to go for a run in a running T-shirt, to go wear an innovative new running shoe and figure out if it works or not. So this is where we have to find the right balance. How can we use intelligent technology to improve and shorten processes on the design end, but certainly, and I hope we will never get rid of samples completely, because that wouldn't help our job.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
As you said before, 30% will be always done in creative, and
I think you're always going to have a physical prototype at some point, but increasing the speed to getting there to an actual good-looking, sharper, well-informed prototype, that's hugely impactful.
Yes, we have one question. I'm looking to YouTube, and we have one question, and she's asking, what technology are your wishes to use in the near future? But I think we already answered this question, right?
Which technologies to use in the future?
Yeah, so I don't know if the question is, what's the next big thing? If we would know, I don't know if we would. I don't know if we are allowed to tell. But I think it's more what we all should look into. How can we be more sustainable?
Yeah,
and
I was gonna say the same thing.
In any aspect that we are working in, whether it's the design process, whether it's kind of how we build product, how we ship product, how we, it's kind of, and sustainability should be from idea until actually the consumer doesn't want to wear it anymore. It's not just until the fact the consumer buys it. Yes. It's more what happens when the consumer doesn't want to wear the product anymore. And so this is, I think this is where everyone needs to come up with ideas and innovative solutions to protect our planet, to just leave something behind for our kids that they still enjoy living in. You know, it's kind of, and this is something what we all as human beings, not just our industry, should aim for.
Do you think that technology could be a big part or take a big part to increase sustainability in the apparel industry?
So do you mean?
I don't know, like in the sportswear industry or in the fashion industry in general, because I'm always thinking there was always this big gap between the economic goals and the sustainable goals, and we never could close it. Anyway, what we did. So maybe technology can close this gap. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, for a sustainability piece, yeah, for sure. I mean, what I find compelling actually in the fashion industry is that there's tons of circular models going around where you can borrow, rent, or resell clothes that you don't want anymore. It gets challenging on let's say, in the sporting good industry where you have a lot of polyester, which is a difficult product to break down and reuse and sort of reintegrate as threads or upcycle back into the process. And also, people will just wear stuff down as sporting people will just wear products basically down to basically nothing. So there's not much left to recycle, or it's in a very bad state. That being said, the first sporting good brand that really cracks the circular loop, when I mean circular, it means the stuff that goes out is being reprocessed and actually goes back in. It's not going back into a landfill or being upcycled to then go back into a landfill somewhere else, but actually being reused again. And that's where I see the fashion industry doing this pretty well. And the sporting industry is in comparison, quite far behind. I would say, and with disclaimer, this is super difficult because you can't expect the sporting good industry to manufacture products, sell them, pick them back up, rebuild them somehow in a local facility, and then somehow recirculate them into you need a lot of B2B partners to do that. And those B2B partners, those aren't there yet. So that's why, I think a sporting good industry would say we'll be the first ones to do this, but we can't do this all by ourselves. We need a lot of competent partners to do so. And that's where it's kind of stopping. And then I'll say one more good user case. If you I think of a good example is football or soccer, where everyone wears polyester. If you think of the amount of teams out there that are wearing warm-ups, jerseys, etc., and they go through a 2-year cycle where they exchange everything again, and all that stuff like literally could be reused, reprocessed, and it would be a huge quantity. And if you just started in one category where it's literally team sports, football, polyester, apparel, I do think you could create this loop pretty fast. And then from there, you could scale it, or ideally scale it into other categories and then potentially to footwear.
Wow, that's an idea of a new startup.
Well, yeah, we were actually we were coming up with this idea back when I was we were thinking about this idea, and then that's where it kind of the ball dropped, was that we couldn't find anyone to go and pick the stuff up. And we couldn't find anyone to really reprocess the things and then reintroduce them. I think the idea was basically that, but this chain of B2B partners, they just weren't missing, or it was missing. And then ultimately, whatever you give back as a team or an individual, you should be reimbursed. That's the other thing you have to be able to do, is that if you expect Martin to go and give back all of his wardrobe from sporting goods, and we don't incentivize him to do it, he might not. So you have to then find an incentive process in the front end. So yeah, I'm making this sound very easy. And you're making this into a very simple PowerPoint. We're like, yeah, we just need to do this, do this, do this, do this. But in reality, those pieces are missing. And again, I think the fashion industry is doing it pretty well. And whenever I speak about these ideas, I was taking the fashion industry as a conceptual, as a concept to say we should be doing the same thing in the sporting industry.
Yes. But also, I mean, if you think about digital fashion and all this, maybe Martin, you wanted to say something about that, or creating customer-centric products, more customer-centric, more personal, more individual. Maybe it's also a possibility, and it's technology, what you can use for that. Martin?
Yeah, I mean, technology can help in any way of the process. So I mean, what I tried to explain earlier. So, and what I have the most knowledge is the time from the first idea until a product is ready to be ordered, and this is where technology definitely can help. Where I think talking under the sustainable aspect, I mean, you always try to reduce waste, but when you cut a product, you actually have leftover fabric. So, and I would hope that there would be tools who probably could tell a designer at the time of designing, hey, if you move your cut line by X amount of centimeters, you could reduce the amount of waste by 20%. I don't know, because I mean, certain yardage and the way how you use fabric, I think their digital technology could help even more. That's certainly not what we are looking into here with the UNA Tech, but there are more options and opportunities. In general, what I think, and when Jack said that the industry is looking into sustainable options, what still needs to happen is a change of mindset in the eyes of the consumer, because right now, and you have both accounts and the consumer. Right now, people, at least in most parts of the world, they are not willing to spend more money on product that's more sustainable. And so this is where you kind of end up in a vicious cycle. You try to most of the companies are owned by shareholders, and you have to earn a certain amount of money, and you only earn money if people buy your product, and people are not willing to pay more money for your product. So this is where I think in general it needs to be a little bit of mindset change on the customer and consumer side as well. But we as an industry can come up with solutions to help them with that decision.
I mean, what I'm hearing right now is that you're saying that sustainable clothes are only for people with more money. So shouldn't it not be that sustainable clothes should be democratized for everybody, that everybody can buy it? So should not change the back end of the industry to provide that?
Well, that comes down to what fabrics you use, how expensive they are. At the moment, sustainable fabrics are more expensive than not sustainable fabrics. So it's kind of, at the moment, whenever you try to be sustainable, it's not cost neutral. So those are ways to look into also for big companies. Do they take a step back and in what they earn, in the way how they apply margin targets? And there are other things that I cannot actually influence. What I can influence is kind of looking into those innovative concepts and try to apply them on product and still hit my margin targets. But those were sometimes the limitations as well. And Jack and I had those conversations. I said, it's cool what you're doing, but we can't pay for it. We can't afford it. It's kind of, that's just the reality. And this is where sometimes cool concepts just die.
Yes, got it. I have one question that's coming to my mind. We had a call, I think 5 years ago, and then you were telling me, look, we did all the samples, but only this part of the samples has been sold, or they went into a collection, and the other ones are just also waste. How many % are you really getting into the collection? How many percentage is just waste? What do you think?
Well, I mean, globally,
Martin gives me half the samples anyway because I'm sample size. So there's the Martin, you get serious. There's a black market in the industry, which is people like me and Martin gives us all of his samples, and everyone who's sample size gets to actually flourish in the fact that they can have a surplus of samples that normally wouldn't be useful anywhere, or they're in a place where you can't really resell them because they are really rough or raw or just pretty bad. But anyway, Martin, I think that's that's a fun answer, but you probably got a more serious answer.
Well, I mean, certainly I have a serious answer. I don't really have percentages because it always depends how you create a global product line, but the product that's part of that line might not be relevant in certain markets of the world. So therefore you have a global product line, and what you see, whether in Europe or in the US, is just a part of it. And but there might not be an overlap between what you see in Europe and what you see in the US. So therefore, certainly there is a trend to go back to more regional approaches and to create product for just the American market and create product just for the European market because consumer, or just for the Asian market because consumer needs are different. And so therefore, actually, most of the things you sample will be sold. You just don't know if they will be sold across the world. And you could go into an account in the US and to an account in Europe, and you would see the same product. So, and this is where companies as well have different approaches with their merchandising, go-to-market teams and sales teams, and how they force certain people to buy into product. And it comes down to how relevant you are as a brand as well. And I mean, there are big sporting brands who do a good job with their footprint globally. And but this is also global relevance or global product lines versus regional needs. And so that comes down to brand strategies. But there are certain samples that will never go into production if you do not hit minimums. There are certain quantities that a supplier requires that they actually start their machines to produce a product. And if you bring something to a sample and no one wants to buy into it, then it will never be in the market. And certainly to figure out earlier whether a product has commercial relevance or not, that would help to avoid those samples that will never be available. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Right. That we are trying to solve this problem.
Exactly.
So I have exactly. So I have another question coming in, and it says, does it mean that all the developed samples go to bulk production?
Well, that's what I kind of said earlier. Not all of them. And in the process, and here every brand has kind of different go-to-market milestones. And I mean, certain brands have a lot of checkpoints with internal people, whether they're from the merchandising side, from the sales side, from the different countries. And at each milestone meetings, you get a yay or nay for a product. And at certain milestone meetings, products go out. And so, well, no one supports it, or we don't continue with it. If you're at a sketch stage, or if you didn't produce a sample early, so you can actually reduce workload also on sample production side, you know. But it certainly happens, and at a certain point, people require a physical sample. Also, buyers. It happens that you produce physical samples, and then no one buys into the product because they end up not liking it. So so therefore, not all samples go into bulk production.
Oh yeah, would 3D fashion help and augmented reality help to avoid this?
For sure, and so what I just said earlier, if you get 3D visualization earlier to make people understand how it will look, then maybe they can already make that call. I said, yes, this is something we think is commercial, go ahead and we can sell it, or no, this is something that doesn't work. At the same time, if you produce those 3D samples, you still ask people for their personal opinion. So if a 3D sample together with that artificial intelligence research or feedback would say, hey, this is something we've identified as the new big thing. And this is the data that shows that it will be. And then the people in the markets maybe don't have a choice to say no, you know, because you have proven it. You have proven it with the data that it will work.
Yes,
we're not there yet.
Right. Yes, yeah, you're right. Jack, I have a question to you. What do you think is the most innovative product in the sportswear industry?
Right now or ever of all time?
Right now and ever in all time also.
Right now, I mean, I think probably anyone who's following the sporting goods industry has probably noticed the quote unquote breaking two shoe. This is done through, and Martin, probably no surprise that I've said that. The Vaporfly, or it's now kind of in its second generation. That shoe, how it was created visually, I mean, it's the most disruptive thing I've seen from a visual perspective, but also how it's really changed people's perceptions of the sport of running, how they've marketed the product. I mean, again, from start to end, and then from a pinnacle product, there's also takedown models that are more affordable. So some people don't really want to spend, and I'm kind of blanking on how much it costs again retail, but I think it's 200. How much is it, Martin? Do you remember? 200 euros $200.
Depends. I think the
or 400. Actually,
the latest Alpha Fly I think is 280.
280. Yeah, so close to 300. I mean, most people don't want to spend that much on a shoe that actually is not meant to last very long. But there are takedowns. So let's say the model that everyone aspires to have can be affordable for virtually anyone. That thing is a weapon of, I call it mass destruction. It has really come up and shaken the marketplace to where everyone is kind of following. And you're seeing now PUMA is creating similar product, not because brands want to follow, but because this product has created a market that if you don't capitalize on it, you'll miss out on sales. So ultimately, people want this kind of stuff. And if another brand creates a similar product, from a brand perspective, you say, we're looking like them, not great, but from a sales perspective, we still capitalize on it. So that is probably the most recent example. And I would say out of my 10 years of experience in sporting good and seeing just about everything from running product to soccer, footwear, soccer to footwear and apparel, that thing is far and away the most disruptive product.
But this is definitely one of these products that falls into the 30% of something that has never been there. So that would be difficult to measure in the first place by artificial intelligence, because it would say, hey, we don't find any data. It has never been there. It's not commercial. It's not successful. But they have proven it with other research data and biomechanical data that this kind of construction works, and it disrupted the market, and now everyone is following. So this is exactly how actually innovation, product marketing, sales, everyone should work together to bring a concept to life. And that's the best practice marketing example, and they're a very good marketing company. But at the same time, and that's actually the best marketing that can happen to you, that they were talking about banning the shoe from professional races. So it's kind of, wait a second, that is a shoe that is so fast that they think about banning it. It's so as a regular runner, so I'm going to buy it. I want to be faster. It's the best marketing you can have.
Free PR.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean,
we're coming already to our end. Keep going.
Come on, we can't end now. We're just hitting a high point on a
disruptive
innovation.
Let's keep going. Let's keep going. We can also keep going.
No, I think Anna, I would have a comment that I think
bring some wine also.
I had a comment that was interesting about your product. So one thing that I was, from an innovation perspective, where we always struggled is that, and if I'm trying to convince Martin, when I say I have this great thing, consumers tend to like it. Margin targets are pretty close. It can be scaled in these ways, and yeah, we've had a few rounds of prototypes. You can look at them as a physical example. But the big question is always, well, if I'm Martin, how successful will this thing sell in the marketplace? And that's where I always thought, if there was a way to leverage, or this is what I was always trying to get at, is trying to cover the spectrum, where I don't know if there's a digital technology that can do that, from a 3D prototype that can pick up market intelligence and can pick up predictive logic that can help you decide how much can be sold, or how commercial it could be.
Yeah, I could invite now our machine learning engineer. He would have a long talk with you. And I think all this predictive stuff, and also seeing what a trend is and what your historical data is saying, what was successful and was not, that artificial intelligence can do that. It's just analyzing data and gives you the answer.
Okay.
Yes. But we can have a call, and then I bring him on, and then he tells you all the story, what can be. But of course, it's just analyzing data, because what you want to know is what is the trend, what will be the trend, what are other companies doing, what was sold good, what has been our best sellers, and all this together gives you the successful product, I think.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, did you ever work with a tool with artificial intelligence, if you're talking about that? Or
Well,
did you ever...
I was trying to build this at PUMA. It's like, I was literally.
So what did you try to build? Now I want to know that.
I think it's. I mean, there's nothing secret about it. It's really taking all this data and trying to formulate. Or actually, what I was trying to do is, and I'll try not to make this too boring, but what tends to happen is we'll create an innovative product, we'll hand it over to the business units or people like Martin, and then Martin takes it, and then we're sort of off, and then we go off and do the next thing. And so I try to follow up on a few. I was always curious to then go and check how well did it actually sell. You know, Martin will probably have this information, so I or people such as Martin or maybe have some of it. So I would go and there's examples. I'd go anecdotally and go, how much do we sell of this product that our innovation team originally created? How much do we sell in these markets? And then it got really complicated to find out like which colorways were being sold, because you can look at and then it starts to get complicated because you have a product family. And below the product family you have colorways, and then you've got other addition. I mean, it gets quite complex to then figure out what you're asking for sales exactly is linked to this product or not. And that's where it all failed. So then I wanted to then say, look, I knew early on that this thing was hot because I had the feeling of getting through this from market research or from just experience, this thing was going to do extremely well. I couldn't really convince the other people that it was going to sell well. So I wanted to go and take examples to then say, well, those three examples, those did sell well. And I feel like if we test these products in the same way we tested those, and they tend to indicate that they're going to sell, that they would sell equally well.
Yeah, maybe you would have, maybe if you would have had already digital fashion, like the product in a digital way, and then you could have shown it to customers and vote it or something like that. You could have also done that. You don't produce it, just do it in a digital way.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know. How did you solve it?
Well, yeah, that was, I spent probably a good half year trying to just pull data together. And again, this is me spreadsheets and putting a report together that said, look, we did from 16 months ago, we got this response from consumers, we got this response from business units, we have all these indications, and we were always missing how well did it sell, or how well do we think it could have sold. So we checked into like what were the forecasts, and again, this starts to get really complex, but it's like how many markets forecasted and which quantities, how many sold through, or what was the sell-in, what was the sell-through, to then justify like, wow, that was really a successful product. And we found it's how do you label a successful product in the marketplace? How many sales do you have to actually have to suggest that it sold extremely well? So it went from a genuinely good idea to extremely complex, to where maybe having a team of data scientists to figure this out would have really been nice.
Yeah, I think, yeah. When you did it all manually?
Yeah.
With spreadsheets?
Well, spreadsheets are just reports, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
But it wasn't very successful, I have to admit.
Yeah.
But again,
that's the thing where I think on the product creation side, there could be more technology being used to be more efficient and to be faster, and it would help everyone. It would help kind of the teams being more focused, because you could automate things within the process to get more reliable data and more objective data. There are definitely ways to use digital technology to improve the process, but they're not there yet. And so this is where there is a need. That might be the need that we create to help people to be better. And at the same time, there needs to be openness to look into it.
I know companies, fashion companies, luxury companies, they have already data scientist team. So I think they had the same idea like you have, and trying now to digitalize it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest barriers you're going to have in a big brand is adoption. I mean, because and I know this is maybe not off topic, but I think this is one of the bigger challenges is with software's adoption. So who gets to access it, who gets to use it, how do they use it, who needs to upload data, who needs to look at it, who needs to process it. There's this kind of, and then for example, if Martin's an end user or me, you have to train these people to actually use it or how to use it. And I think that's something we didn't touch, and I know that's the more boring topic, but I think that's the adoption piece is going to be critical. And I think making that, and again, big industry like sporting good, where people are used to having physical prototypes and talking about the actual fabrics, getting people to adopt to a software solution could be a challenge. Where perhaps in a fashion industry, there's so many more products that are coming and going that you just don't have time to touch all of them, where it might be easier.
But I mean, this is where actually, and coming back to the opening question, how did COVID change the world? You know, and the way we found ways to have digital solutions, or not necessarily. I mean, just having virtual solutions in selling meetings. So actually, buying teams had to buy product in just seeing it in a video presentation. You know, instead of touching it. I mean, there was the most important accounts still got the samples be shipped to their house that they could touch it, but the majority of seller meetings happened virtually, and so that was already the first step to go into a virtual and digital kind of product creation / sell-in setup. You know, and this is where actually I think COVID has accelerated the way into more digital solutions.
Yeah, I believe that also.
Yeah.
I have a real question. Valia is writing. It's a real question
from
YouTube.
Not real?
Yeah, that's
It's a virtual question. It's a
virtual question. So I'll just read it. Did you try to develop or probably have some app which combines showing exercises by coaches and promote the sport brand's garments at the same time?
Yeah.
That's yours. Check that's yours.
Well, I guess that's sort of, they kind of go hand in hand. So I mean, a lot of the sporting good companies have their own apps for training sessions, and of course these people are wearing sporting goods, which you can actually buy in the app. Not all brands can do that. That can be linked. I mean, again, the selling of the goods that you're seeing on the app are possible. Some brands do it better than other ones. And yes, that does exist. I mean, I'm giving you very short story long, but in order to sell in the app, and this is the fundamental difference, is that if you want to purchase in the app directly, that's a whole different process between being on an app and then being hyperlinked to a website to then purchase online. So Nike does a fantastic job. Again, they're the biggest, they're the kings of the industry. So they're the people who tend to create the latest and greatest tech and products, and there they have a great app that you can purchase all the products that you would normally purchase directly in the app, which, as we all know, during COVID times, it's so much easier to purchase. You know, we all enjoy purchasing things in an app because it's faster, easier, quicker. Data privacy. There's no hackers that can step in and sell you something from a false website, etc. It's a great thing. It's a big undertaking.
Interesting.
I hope I answered that question. I might have just, I think I popped up like 5 or 6 more questions.
And to be fair, I think there are, for every big brand, there are great teams working on digital kind of tools to communicate with the consumers. In the product creation process, we don't actually kind of interact or work with them, but I know that in PUMA there is a great team that's working on digital. I just don't have any experience in how they approach things, you know.
Yeah.
I have a next question. I don't get really what it means. What is your take on the NFTs?
So I think I'm trying to remember what those are again. I think those are the sort of beacons that you can put into products whenever someone walks into a store. The store knows it's you. I think that's what that is. These are sort of these beacons. Again, I could be wrong, so I hate to answer that question and be and answer of that this technology is doing this when actually it's not. Yeah.
I have to admit, I've never heard that.
No, me neither.
I don't know what it is. I'm sorry.
Me neither. Very interesting. NFT, what could it mean?
It's mobile technology that tracks
Tracking.
This person can probably answer that question.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I never heard it either. And then I have another question. It's maybe it's related to what you're talking about before, Jack. It's like maybe case studies from the customer and their feedback would help to analyze the product performance.
That's right. That's kind of the core function of a research, or the easiest core function of a research and insight group is to really find out through user experience, and then with let's say a structured questionnaire or a structured tracking of performance, etc. Does this product actually achieve what it's supposed to be achieving? So yeah, that's essential. And Martin always asks these kind of things. So I could never give Martin a product and say that there wasn't a large bulk of research done behind it. Again, the big question is, if I can convince Martin, not only is it pretty cool, but it's going to sell well in the form that we've created it in, then I have ultimate leverage to convince Martin to take this product.
Correct.
Martin is smiling. So I have another question. Wait. Which ways used in the company to speed up? Which ways do you use in the company to speed up internal processes or avoid systematical mistakes? Are there only digital solutions? But how you speed up processes? Are there only digital solutions, or how you can speed up processes?
Well, I mean, we look into agile kind of approaches as well, kind of changing the way how you create something, just in the way how you get to new ideas, to new concepts, and the way how to probably also brainstorm. I think there are ways to work slightly differently, to look at the project end to end. At the same time, there are always there are requirements or that you cannot change, and on the product creation side, you can only shorten timelines so much, because everything needs to be actually done on your end 7 months before the product is supposed to hit the market, because the suppliers, and that might be a different topic, where you invite kind of people from suppliers, how they could improve the pace they can work on the product, and they in bike production or something like that. So for us, there's just a limited amount of time. What we try to do, we try to reduce the time, as I explained earlier, from the initial idea to the final sign off the product creation process, and instead of having 12 months to do that, we create product where we try to do it in 3 months. And we even work with suppliers where we can produce product from the idea till in store in 4 months. That certainly comes down to local production as well, because right now, and this is if we produce in Asia and the product needs to go into the US, it takes only it takes 2 months to ship the product, so you can only be faster if you find local resources that helps you produce product, but that's a completely different topic, since we certainly work with sourcing teams, but we kind of tell them, hey, this is when we need the product in store, and this is when we can give you the information, and then it's their job to figure it out. And that's maybe that's the challenge of bigger companies as well, that you hand, at a certain point, you have to hand something over, and then it goes into a different area of responsibility. Yeah,
that's $1 million question. These efficiency gains are critical. It actually comes with, it actually happens automatically. At some point, it's too painful, or cost of prototypes are too expensive, or a pandemic is on our hands, or budgets are cut, or headcounts aren't available, or there's all kinds of, and Martin and I can speak, I mean, even the process we have in place, where we think a big company is quite rigid, but the amount of volatility and change, where from one season you could have this approach to the next season, which means you have to also flip how you do things, and then you find out that you actually bring a product to market actually faster than you already had in your process. So there's a lot of there's a lot of, let's say, factors that play constantly that make you adapt. Be it, yeah.
And to be fair, I mean, the success of a company lives with their sourcing organization, because I mean, just identifying the suppliers you want to work with, and so they certainly need to have or fulfill certain requirements as well. But also, it's a capacity problem. You know, once the athletic market is growing and everyone wants to buy athletic gear, that's not just one brand, that's all athletic brands who want to produce more, but there's only a certain amount of supplier that you work with. And then they kind of say, well, if you want to have the capacity with my factory, you either have to pay more money or you have to tell me earlier, you have to commit to something. And this is where the sourcing teams, they do a tremendous job to get product to life. And so on the product creation side, you have to kind of work to fulfill their requirements. You know, that's and that would be a completely different talk with sourcing people, you know.
Yeah, thank you for answering that question. I think it was good. So now we have no more questions. And it's actually also at 8 o'clock. On our time, what is it in Boston?
2 p.m., early afternoon.
Okay, I always have one last question to our panelists. The question is, for example, if you would have a huge wall in Boston or in Berlin, what would you write on this wall, Martin?
So, now you put me on the spot.
Yeah, go on, Martin. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, it's I guess you're referring to my professional kind of
I mean,
ideas, or what you know, how I would like to change the process within my job, I guess, right?
No, I don't know. You can write also peace for everybody. I don't know.
No,
just what would you tell the world if you could write something on this wall? What would you tell the world?
I think I just said it earlier that we as human beings at this planet, we have to protect the planet, and everyone has to play their piece. And whether it's in my professional life in creating product that meet consumer needs, or if it's in my personal life in the way how I just live every day, and because I love to be outdoors and I wanna protect that, and I love outdoor sports. And and I think this is what I would put onto that wall. Think about our planet.
Think about our planet. Very cool. Yeah, love that. And you, Jack?
I'm still contemplating what I put up there. I mean, I think ultimately, I think people are happiest whenever they're achieving things they thought they never could do. Most people are afraid of their own potential and live kind of in this quote unquote comfort zone. So I've always lived the motto and tried to push people to do things they normally wouldn't be doing, and being comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's the only place where you as an individual grow and be happy and feel fulfilled. Again, that can be so many different things for so many different people. But again, I would just put out there, don't be afraid and trust yourself.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I normally put like,
yeah,
that's a very good one. I love that.
Best one,
Maybe we should write this down in our
Verschiebniks. I would put that in Verschiebniks. I'd put that on the Berlin wall.
Yeah, Berlin. Yeah, very good. Yeah, I always normally say the future's now. But today I could also say, never give up, always keep going. That would be my message today. So thank you very much. It was very cool talking to you and have a look into the sportswear industry. We will have a next panel discussion, I think, in the middle of March. I wish you a nice evening, Martin, Jack. Thanks a lot. And thanks a lot to our audience also, and for the questions also. There has been a lot of questions. Thank you for that. And
thanks for having us.
Hey, thanks for having us. And again, if people have questions and they want to ask Martin, I speak for Martin here because I know him and I feel comfortable making some just reach out to us. I mean, our LinkedIn profile's there. If you have any questions, any comments, concerns that you didn't address, if there's anything I can help you with, don't be afraid to reach out.
Yep, amazing. Yeah, that's anyway, right, Martin?
Yes,
You
yes, I
can,
can
yeah.
just.
Well, now he has no
underline that.
choice.
Yes, no choice. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Happy
Thank you
evening
very
for
much.